Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. So I'm going to be doing something kind of stupid, kind of different. I'm going to be reading the worst reviews on my books on my favorite shelf on Goodreads, just to spice up my day, give myself a little fun. And so I'm basically just going to go onto my favorite shelf, I'm going to click on the first book on there, and I'm going to, actually I might just do them at random. I'm going to read the 1-star reviews and hope I don't cry. So I hope you like this video. So this person gave, I'm starting with Red, White, and Royal Blue, but this person gave Red, White, and Royal Blue a did not finish at 30%, and they give it a 1 star. And in the first paragraph, they mentioned that Sarah J. Maas wins book awards, and that is stupid, and we know how she feels about that. So obviously we don't have the same taste. Let's get started. Red, White, and Royal Blue is a book that wants you to know that it's really, really hip. All of those references are going to mean nothing in 10 years, but right now everyone is nodding their heads and saying, yes, so topical, when really it's about topical as a hemorrhoid cream. It reads like fanfic. I wouldn't be surprised if this started out as fanfic, but even if it didn't, that vaguely fetishistic vibe that some books about gay men have that really bothers me. Because it feels like they rely on stereotypes and headcanons about creating actual, and less about creating actual realistic characters who have actual realistic romance. Henry and Alex are both so immature they have zero common sense and zero social savvy. Considering they're both children and major heads of state, you would think that they would actually have some intelligence and grace somewhere in there, but no, their charm consists of sarcastic grade school humor insults we're supposed to believe is witty banter. Okay, so I have to disagree completely with all of that. First of all, because just because they're kids in royal families doesn't mean that they have to act a certain way and not be sarcastic and funny and like enjoy their lives. Also, at the same time, I didn't, as a gay male, I did not find it fetishistic at all. I found that to be very normal for a romance between two men, you know, falling in love and having sex. That's just kind of how romance works. Is it fetishistic to have two straight people have sex in a book? Just saying. But, yeah, she goes on for quite a while, and yeah, no, don't have any interest. I skipped the first one because I read half of it and I was just so mad. This person says, this book is such a disappointment for me. Honestly, I don't see the appeal. I feel like someone's political ideals disguised as romance. What are you saying? I felt like this book was a bit of a soapbox. There were so many political digs thrown at the reader. Yeah, it's about politics. And this is a personal observation, but I don't really like politics, so obviously this is going to annoy me. Then why did you read a book about politics? The story follows a romance between the first son of the United States and the Prince of England. You know that. I had went into the book thinking it was charming and cute. I can't really say it was either. I disagree. I kept asking myself, I'm skimming, but I kept asking myself, when is it going to end already? The writing that wasn't dialogue was excellent, though. That I agree with. I liked the dialogue too, although I did find Alex a bit annoying at times. Not annoying, I could relate to him, but I just found him a bit too witty at times. Speak of it being sexual, their relationship is over-sexualized. Books with LGBT characters being over-sexualized is my biggest pet hate. I wish there were more novels where the LGBTQ characters were not objectified and they would not contribute to the story. And they could contribute to the story in the same way their heterosexual counterparts do. I agree, but also I find that in most stories, heterosexual characters are just as sexual as homosexual characters, so I find this is actually a more normal approach to it. So that was just my opinion on it. Let's do one more. This is a short one. This book is unbelievably cheesy and possesses zero literary merit. Wow. Like reading Tumblr tag meta, but worse. I'm horrified that it was called Exquisite by New York Times, which has fallen into disrepute. Wow. Someone doesn't like happy books. Sorry, we're not all pretentious readers. I'm kidding, like, I'm not actually trying to go after these people. I just find it funny sometimes. So yeah, that's Red, White, and Royal Blue. I'm gonna get really mad about these, that's why my red lights are on. So the next book we're looking at reviews for is Misery, which I read last week, and I loved it. It's Stephen King's Misery, and so I'm a little scared to read these. The first review that we have coming up is Life is too short for books that don't feel compelling to read. You know what? That's fair. If you don't like it, don't read it. Like, honestly, just skip it. I've been doing that a lot lately, where if I'm just like reading a book that I just honestly don't care about, like when I read Lore a couple weeks ago, I got about like not even like halfway through it and I was just like, fuck it, I'm done. This book made me miserable. Alright, a good review. I am a King fan, but here he lets me down. Misery, in my opinion, suffers from the limitations of plotting. Maybe the novelist gets bored towards the end. The horror is there. You keep on turning the pages, but there is something missing after you turn the last page. King's climaxes are some of the most exciting endings I've ever read. Reading Pet Sematary, I was furtively looking behind me. After reading Tommyknockers, I glanced up at a stretch for a minute. In Cujo, I could hear something inside me shout, "Kill the bastard," but nothing in Misery. King has written a novel called The Dark Half, which has somewhat a similar plot to Misery. Misery is okay by King's standard, but The Dark Half is simply superb. You'll forget Misery, but you won't forget George Stark, will you? So I'm gonna have to pick that up, because that actually sounds really cool. Because I really liked Misery, and let's keep going. One of the worst books I have ever read. Seriously awful. The writing is terrible and the plot is ridiculous. Ooh. I have to disagree. I found the writing in Misery better than most of Stephen King's books. I could see why people wouldn't like it. It's not as ridiculous as Stephen King's other books, which is why I find it weird that there are people in here saying that it's very weird and ridiculous. But I found it to be a lot more grounded than Stephen King's other books. There were no supernatural elements to it. It was very, I mean, there was like, you could theorize that there was a supernatural element to it, but it was very grounded for a Stephen King book, so the idea that it's ridiculous, I don't know, it's just a kidnapping. So it kind of makes sense. I could see how it's exaggerated. Every King book I've read is so damn boring. Never going to read a book of his again. So predictable, dull, and repetitive. I can agree. A lot of Stephen King's books are not good. I don't like a lot of his books. I'm going to be reading It this month because I think I want to torture myself and force myself through that gigantic ass book, and also because I love the movies. So yeah, I'm gonna read that this month, and I'm so ready to be either bored out of my mind or blown out of my mind. Like, I'm ready to go either way. So yeah, not as upset about this one because I can kind of understand the criticisms. I would never like understand someone saying this is the worst book of all time about one of Stephen King's books, unless you were talking like, I don't know, there's none of them that are like horrible. Dr. Sleep isn't good. I haven't read it, but I've heard a lot of the stuff. I've seen the movie and I've heard a lot about the stuff that happens in it. I'm gonna read it myself, but I don't like what I've heard about the story so far. So I can understand why people don't like Stephen King's books, and it'll be the same thing. I'm not gonna do any of Sarah J. Maas's books in this video, just because they're my favorite for a different reason. They're not my favorite because I think they're objectively good. They're my favorite because they're comfort reads. So I'm not gonna put any of Sarah J. Maas's books in this video. This book we're looking at is The Cruel Prince. I'm ready for some negative reviews on this one because I could totally understand why. But at the same time, I really liked this book. I thought the writing was phenomenal, and I really enjoyed the characters. But only in the first book. The last two books really threw me off. So let's get started. I absolutely cannot believe I wasted time out of my freaking life to read this book. I don't get the hype, and I hate how relationships are portrayed in this story. Authors and reviewers on Goodreads that I trusted, which is scratched out and now put trust, raved about this book. and I'm here lighting the fire so I can burn all the pages. First of all, the writing is horrendous. It's the worst case of tell not show that I've ever seen since Twilight. I did this, she did that, now I'm gonna do this. There was no emotion in the writing. I did not feel any attachment to the world of Fairyland, and I could not connect with the protagonist Jude because I wanted to slap some sense into her the entire time. She acts recklessly, even when other people warn her repeatedly not to do the thing, and for the first 200 pages she does nothing but complain, indulging in a self-pity party like there's no tomorrow. Wow, that was a lot. I disagree that the writing is horrendous. I think the writing is actually very beautiful. I can agree on not connecting with Jude. I did not connect with her character, but I still enjoyed her in the first book because I found her smart. In the last 2 books, I found her very stupid and I hated it. I made a rant video about it. Did not finish at page 173. How the fuck is this book so hyped? I expected it to be a fantasy with political intrigues and complexities. Instead, I got a high school drama, bullies, and one dumb as hell main character. No thank you. She's not dumb in the first book, though. She's dumb in the other ones. But yeah, I can agree. It's very high school. But I don't know. I kind of enjoyed that for the time when I was reading it. But, like, I can agree. Like, yeah, it's dumb. Like, it's dumb at some points. Especially if you don't like fantasy books. So, yeah. Did not finish at 65%. Simply a no from me. The book says no story, no world building, no twists. I can tell you didn't finish the book. No, nothing. The main characters are odd. I couldn't stand them. The bullying parts had my eyes rolling. It was ridiculous. Huh. I wanted to stop before, but I gave it a chance furthermore, well, sorry, but after... What? So yeah, you didn't like it. That's what I understand from that review. The next review is, I want this book to come to life so I can punch it in the face. It is terrible. Wow. That's actually kind of funny. I like that one. I'm gonna use that eventually in a review. But wow. Yeah. Oh, someone in here is talking about how they didn't like Six of Crows. Me too, bestie. Don't come for me, I don't like it. So, yeah. I can agree with a lot of the reviews on this one. It's not amazing, but also I found the writing really nice, and I liked the characters. Until the later books. So I can understand, like, not liking the series after reading the later books. So, yeah, I get it. Kinda mad about people saying the writing isn't good, because objectively the writing is good. And the stuff about world building, I thought the world building in Holly Black's books are actually really good. They don't shy away from any cruelty that the Fae may put on people, which I find a lot of books do. So, I liked it. It's time for the reviews on my favorite book of all time, which is Gideon the Ninth. I don't want to read them because they're going to make me really angry, but here we go. Prepare for some backlash. Review number 1. I don't get it. That is fair. It took me a couple reads to actually kind of get what was going on. It's very dense and it's very hard to understand. So like a lot of the reviews that are going to be like, I don't really understand what happened. I get not liking it for that reason. But if any of these reviews are going to be like, the writing is bad, I'm gonna fucking punch someone, because the writing is amazing. It's very dense and it's very like, you need to think, like, when you're reading. It's a book that you need to, like, figure out as you're reading it. And, like, I really took time to figure it out because I was so into this story and enraptured by these characters. So I loved it. Did not finish at page 79. That is not long enough. I hate to say it, I hope I don't sound ridiculous. I don't know what the fuck is happening in this book. This book could be walking down a street. I wouldn't know a thing. Sorry to this book. Respect. This is a lesbian necromancers in space fantasy sci-fi novel published in 2019 with a lot of hype, so a chance to get nominated at the World's Year Award. While the protagonist Gideon Nav is a lesbian, it is more on the back burner. like her mentioning some gals are hot as well as some guys. The space part is also more general, in the most general sense that the story starts out in one planet and moves to another. The actual action is all concentrated indoors, with a space flight being located between locations. It is as easy. This is very hard to read. It is as easy could have been set as a fantasy world with, say, portals. This is a lot of stuff about the actual story. I understand this book has a lot of fans among younger audience, but it is not my piece of cake. I'm a bit too old to be awed by the coolness of wearing shades indoors like the protagonist does. I like to have a plot, not the series of SFX, but in books and movies. It had a plot, and also, the reason, did you want her to be talking about being a lesbian the entire time? Because she was a lesbian. And she just did her thing throughout the entire book. That was what was so great about it. It was like representation that wasn't entirely focused on representation. And that's what I really liked about it. So, yeah. First DNF of 2020. I gave it 90 minutes of my life that I will never get back. I did not enjoy any of it. The world building was thin. Uninteresting. Not sure why it had to have space at all. Did you read the second book? Because it explains why it explains in the book why it's in space. Yeah, like, she's saying in this review that she doesn't understand why it's classified as science fiction. It's because of all the bone science that's in it, and it's in space. Science fiction doesn't necessarily have to be in space. It's a science-based fiction, which is why it's science fiction. The genre of science fiction doesn't just take place in space. I wish people knew that. I've taken a science fiction class. But, anyway, the thing I hate most are the characters. Oh, we are not gonna get along. I felt like hitting them with bones whenever they opened their mouths. I feel like hitting you with bones right now. Read a better teenage fantasy than this one, and better banners too. Oh. Huh. So I disagree with this person entirely, and I'm not going to read the rest of the review because I feel like I'm just going to start tearing into them. But, yeah, wow. Someone is very mad about Gideon the Ninth, and I think it's just because they didn't understand it. But, yeah, it's just because they didn't understand it. I just read the comments. But half of my problem with a lot of these comments is they're just like, they didn't finish it, and then, yeah, they didn't finish it, but then they're asking questions about, like, why this happened. Like, they get, like, 100 pages in, it's like a 400-page book, and they're like, well, I don't know why this happened. Well, if you would have read the rest of the book, you would have known why that happened. It's a mystery book. It's not just gonna tell you. This book is not one that's just gonna spell it out for you. You have to, like, do some thinking and digging yourself, and if you don't like this type of books, this book is not gonna be for you. And that's not, like, to sound pretentious or anything, that's just a fact. Like, it's not a book that you can't just, like, that you can't think about, or you won't take in anything that's happening. But, my cat's zooming around the living room. But I loved this book. I thought it was incredible. So, my heart hurts. The fact that people don't like this book really hurts me. But that's gonna do it for today. That was an angering experience. I did not like that, and I will not do that again. So, I hope you guys liked this video. I think I might also do a video where I read the best reviews on my least favorite books, so I can be more angry at the fact that people like those books. But also, I hope you guys have a great day. Stay safe. Get vaccinated when you can. Have a nice day. I love you guys. Bye.